So today we're going to talk about a legal battle that went on for more than half a century. Seriously, it's an incredible story about a huge piece of land, a really clever legal argument, and a final verdict that, get this, had almost nothing to do with the argument itself. Let's get into it.
Okay, so here's the big question, the mystery we're going to unpack. Just imagine this. You fight a case in court for 51 years, your entire life maybe. And then, at the very end, the judge throws your case out. Not because you were wrong, but because of something you didn't say. It sounds completely wild, but that is exactly what happened here.
All right, so who are the main players? On one side, you've got the Ramjas Foundation, a really big, important educational society in Delhi. And on the other side, the government of India. The prize they were fighting over was a massive, priceless piece of land right in the heart of the city. And believe it or not, the clock on this legal fight ran for 51 years. Just incredible.
Now, let's talk about what was really at stake here, because the scale is just mind-boggling. We're talking about more than 1,600 bighas. That's roughly 1,000 acres of prime real estate in Delhi. This wasn't just some empty plot. It was historic land dedicated to education all the way back in 1916. The foundation was running almost 20 schools and a college on this land. So yeah, the stakes were huge.
So how did this whole thing even start? Well, back in 1959, the government announced it was going to acquire a huge amount of land to develop Delhi. But, and this is the important part, there was a tiny exemption in the notice, a loophole. And the Ramjas Foundation grabbed onto this one little clause and built their entire decades-long case around it.
Now, to really get what they were trying to do, you got to understand the difference between two legal ideas. On the one hand, you have a Hindu charitable trust, which is basically what the Ramjas Foundation was. But on the other hand, you have something called an Islamic Wakf. A Wakf is totally different. It's when a property is given to God forever for a charitable purpose under Islamic law. They're governed by completely separate rules. So why on earth does this matter?
Well, this right here was the whole game. That government notice from 1959, it specifically said that Wakf property was exempt from being taken over. So the Ramjas Foundation, which, remember, was founded by a Hindu philanthropist, made a wild argument. They claimed their land was actually a Wakf, and because of that, the government couldn't touch it. I mean, what a bold, creative legal strategy.
And this wasn't just one simple lawsuit. Oh no, the foundation had two huge pieces of land, and they started separate, parallel legal fights for both of them. This created an absolute maze of litigation that just twisted and turned its way through every single level of the Indian court system for literally decades.
This timeline really puts the whole epic saga into perspective. It kicks off in '59. They don't even file the first suit until '68, almost a decade later. Fast forward to 1992, and the Supreme Court is already getting fed up with their tactics. By 2002, one of their main claims gets shot down. And still, they keep fighting, all the way to a final judgment in 2010. 51 years. That's not just a court case. That's someone's entire career.
So, after all that time, you'd think the final ruling would be some deep, philosophical decision on whether this land was a Wakf or not, right? Nope. And here's the twist that changes everything. After 51 years, the Supreme Court didn't even bother ruling on that question. The entire case got thrown out for a completely different reason: a lie of omission.
Remember those two big pieces of land I mentioned? The foundation was fighting for both of them, using the exact same Wakf argument in two different cases. But what they conveniently forgot to tell the Supreme Court in their final appeal was how the fight over that second piece of land was going. And spoiler alert, it was not going well for them. At all.
So what exactly did they hide? Well, get this. They failed to mention that the Supreme Court had already shot down their walk-off argument for the other piece of land, not once, but twice, in 1992 and again in 2002. And what's even crazier is that after that 2002 loss, they basically gave up and just asked the government if they could have a small piece of the land back. They hid this entire history while making the same arguments all over again, as if none of it ever happened.
And the impact of this lie? It was huge. By hiding their past failures, they convinced the court to give them a stay order. And that order stopped the government from taking the land for 14 years. A 14-year delay, all based on a story that was missing the most important chapters.
And this is what finally brought the whole 51-year case crashing down. It's a really old, really powerful legal idea called the Doctrine of Clean Hands. And it's pretty simple. If you come to court asking for help, you better come with honesty. You better be telling the whole truth.
And this is not some new, trendy legal theory. This quote from an English case back in 1917 shows you just how fundamental this idea is. Courts have always believed that they have to protect themselves from being lied to. If you don't give them the full story, they have every right to take back any help they gave you.
So what does it mean in plain English? It means you have a duty to tell the court everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You can't just cherry-pick the facts that help you and bury the ones that hurt you. Getting help from a court is a privilege, and that privilege is built on a foundation of your honesty.
Now, the Supreme Court wasn't just pulling this idea out of thin air. You can see here their decision was built on a solid foundation of Indian law. Case after case has reinforced this rule, making it crystal clear that hiding facts is a deal-breaker. The court was simply following a long-established principle. The integrity of the whole justice system has to come first. And because of that, the Ramjas Foundation case became a huge landmark judgment, not for what it said about land law or Wakf property, but as a powerful modern warning to everyone who ever steps into a courtroom. You must be honest.
And this right here is the key takeaway. The court didn't even say if the Wakf argument was right or wrong. In the end, it just didn't matter. What mattered more was that the foundation had tried to, in the court's own words, pollute the stream of justice. They decided that protecting the process itself was more important than the facts of this one case. It proved that how you argue in court can be way more important than what you argue about.
And that leaves us with a really fascinating question to think about, doesn't it? In the grand pursuit of justice, should the rules of the game, that absolute demand for honesty, always trump the specific facts of a case, no matter how much is at stake? This 51-year fight, which ended not with a bang, but with the quiet discovery of a lie, really forces us to think about that.